imitation pharmaceutical product or something like that. It's just want to encourage people when they're doing other techniques to use a yin style. If you're trying to learn points and you're trying to learn what goes on, don't push hard. You push hard, you're not learning anything. You do all these points just by touch, and then you're going to learn things. You need to have a passive style so the information is going to come in and you're not doing something. So there are a lot of acupressure systems where no one ever learns anything. You may help people, but you're pushing too hard and so on like that. Same thing with the needling technique. I was fortunate that my teachers didn't like twirling and all that kind of thing. They just put it in because that's a very good way of learning. When you're busy doing and all that, that may be useful doing, but you're not learning at that point. You're trying to be curious and you want to know what goes on, the less contact you have with that person. Now, most people, to hold their hand above in the air is harder to do that in a relaxed way than just drifting on the surface like that. You can teach virtually anybody how to reproduce acupuncture charts. That's the other thing. You have these charts, the ear chart, a terrible example. You have to be able to be the master of the chart. How did they make it? Where did it come from? What is good and bad about it? You can't. You're trying to figure out how things work. All this had to make sense in animals. It had to make sense in plants. That gets you away from precise point location, right? Because you figure the animals, and that gets you away from a lot of these different things. Using it has to make sense from an evolution point of view takes you away from a lot of errors that otherwise you'll just fall right into. It's very important. Acupuncture works quite well with animals. They like it. Animals and young children, as soon as you're doing acupuncture treatments, they appreciate the process. Little bugs appreciate the process. They'll fly around the needles and so on like that. They can tell, they can all read these things. And I had a 4-year-old girl in our clinic once, and every time I put a needle in, she went like this. And my first thought was that she was at a sadistic glee from right? That was projection of adultism. And so I asked her, I turned to her and I said, you can see something happening, can't you? She said, no. And I said, do you know where I'm going to put the needle? And she said, can you show me? And so we went up and she pointed out to several points on that person's foot that I was going to do later on. A lot of people have that skill. And I would assume a lot of animals have that skill too, they can't just tell us. There it is. So what is the skill? I need to reattune myself to things that are there. Acupuncture is one of these subjects, it's already there. You're relearning something that's already there. There are some subjects not like that, but this is one that you're relearning what's already there. And that isn't to put on it, oh, I already know it. Well, you're damn fool until you relearn it in the right way. But you're relearning something that's built in. Otherwise, all this balancing system is no good unless it can be used. And it's working. What happens to the acupuncture point when nobody puts a needle in? It's like, so what is the tree in the forest fall and no one hears it, it's really happening. You have to, of course, these points are used all the time. How many intrinsic homeostatic systems do you think the body has? It's got at least one just sit there and 30 years waiting for a little pink house. No, that's absurd. So then you say, well, how does the body use them? And then you sit there and you sit quietly and you say, wow, I felt that little tingle and all these things. My body's using those things now. And you get more and more interested in that. You want to find out what is the system doing. Then you start being able to be aware of things. A good person, why did you do that point? I can make up a theory that fits the book, but that isn't why I did that point. I did that point because I felt that point. Why did you touch that person in a certain way? I can make up a theory why I did that, but I did it because I touched the person in a certain way. That's what happened. Why did I say a certain sentence? All these things come from your large unconscious. They don't come. All this takes you away from licensing. It takes you away from control, and it takes you away from American medicine. And you have to know that you're far away, so you build bridges to it, so you explain it, so you make a connection. And it's our wonderful science. That's just terrible. It's technically true, but it's terrible because it doesn't get anywhere. It doesn't communicate. It doesn't solve any problems. And if I have a person doing treatment, you felt the right point. Good, you put it in the right way. Now sit for a moment. Don't do another point for a moment. Let yourself get ready again. Why don't we just leave these 3 points in this time? Let's see what happens. Why don't we do this? I judge my staff when the patient walks toward them, where do they touch the person? I tell them, you should be touching an appropriate acupuncture point. Their side or wherever it is. Oh, let's see what this is. You should always do that. Just like if you're used to talking with people, I'm used to talking with someone who's suicidal or something. Every sentence I'm going to say is pertinent. May or may not be the best. That depends what mood I'm in at that moment. But I can't help but say a pertinent sentence. Because you've explored all these areas of this particular thing. And paint it. Why did you paint that? That's the wrong way of doing it. It doesn't mean there isn't a why somewhere. It means the why wasn't in my head. And it's not a good way for you to learn to be a painter. And you have all these metaphors and analogies and all that. So you clean off the brush, and then the person sees what in this book is a good way for me to learn how to do this. And by watching someone else. You have, when I went to medical school, I could watch real doctors. First of all, you have far fewer lectures at medical school than you have in acupuncture school, far less. And they don't grade you so hard, they grade you on your apprenticeship. I could watch a real doctor do something. Acupuncture school, you don't do that because you have a doctor come in, they have to do something that makes sense to the textbook and the student that has read the textbook. Well, you're gone. There's no chi ever, there's no anything. And therefore people get discouraged. We had an advantage in Lincoln. I've had 1,000 graduations, right? 1,000 introductory lectures on exactly the same subject. Well, that means you start to learn the process. So to me, it's not surprising I can explain acupuncture better because I had to explain it to all these different people who had different value systems, a different situation. And did they understand it or not? What does this mean? And all this kind of stuff. And repetition. And that's why you will have a school. My goodness, just bring in the first 103 people that are there. I tell all the schools to do treatment for all the women who scrub the floors, free treatment. So the kids will learn how to do it.